as a person who is also dyslexic myself, I use all of this equipment on a daily basis. I will tell you how I use it for, what works, what doesn't. Yeah, what about who we are to begin with? Well, we support people predominantly in the UK, but we do support people worldwide. So if after today you're like, I like what these guys do, you're always welcome to get in touch and go from there. We recruit diverse talent. So if you're a job seeker looking for an inclusive employer, definitely contact us. We do one-to-one job applications and support, workplace guides and drop-ins, and all that. And just so you guys all know, I will be sending a recording of today's session with follow-up links. So rest assured that you will get it.
Absolutely. So I'm Timothy Lang, Head of Delivery at Exceptional Individual, and I am the boots on the ground one-to-one support for those who are already in work and require additional assistance with their role. This often includes assistive technology, which I can also train in. If any questions come up about this technology, that will probably be directed at me through the session.
Brilliant. Well, thanks very much, Tim. Now, I just want to put this out to you guys. What challenges would you like assistive technology to overcome for you? Like, if any of you are dyslexic, which I'm guessing quite a few of you are, is there any kind of things that every day just seem like a right pain and you wish there was a simpler way of getting around it? If you guys are all saying a similar thing, we'll be able to focus on certain areas. I think for myself, it's that verbally I've got quite I would say an extensive vocabulary, but when it comes to writing, I come across like I'm two. Yeah, it's just all my words get kind of dumbed down. So I do rely on assistive technology quite heavily regarding this. Okay, we've got organization. That's a big one. Text to speech has been useful. Yeah. Concentration. Yes, that's an interesting one as well. And processing. Brilliant. We will definitely be covering some of those, but bear in mind, technology is a great add-on. It's not like a miracle solution. So this is like an example of some software which is out there at the moment. So just to quickly go over them, we've got speech software. So as you're speaking, it like dictates it. We've got special writing software. So if you write your notes down, it will be transferred automatically to your phone. Which is great if you're awfully forgetful like I am. You've got special mind mapping software, which can kind of join bits together and allow you to get everything in here down on the screen. You have special glasses, which I've never tried these, but if you wear them, it can like scan the words and read them back to you. You have special dictation software, which is able to like bookmark different sections of what you've recorded. Colored overlays, which can change the contrast on the page. Magical pens that as you go over text, it will read it out loud to you. There are so many things which are there to help. And it's very much a cocktail and it's very much individual. So I highly recommend seeing an expert, either us or someone else, before going and splashing out all your cash. Because some of this will work amazing for you, others will not. Okay, just check. Okay, so we got my computer is moving to Google and Android software to be installed, blogs. And we will be going on about what computer systems work well with this and which ones do not, and which ones require high-end computers and which ones do not. In an ideal world, I would physically show you guys how to use all this software today, but as we are all at home, I don't have my computer with everything on, and this old beast is not running as good as it used to be. But I'll do my best to explain to you, but in the future, we will be holding sessions where you can get a real like hands-on feel or touch, and I can like share the screen remotely. And if any of you are wondering why we've got a TV down here, for people with dyslexia and those who have like visual stress, your computer screen has like a refresh rate, so how often it's refreshing the pixels. And sometimes if it has quite a low refresh rate or different hertz, it can be quite challenging to the eye. And Tim, feel free to jump in at any moment if you want to add any clarification. But
Absolutely.
right now, I'm just going to go through a few of my favorites, things that I use on a daily basis. Now, the first one is speech recognition software. So this is when you're just using your voice. Like I mentioned with the problem that I always struggle with is that you've got the words in your head, but you really struggle to get them out. And when you're typing, maybe you're like really slow at typing. Maybe you spend so long correcting your spelling mistakes that you just purposely choose to use really simple words. I know if I get through to interview stage, don't want to brag, but I'll do pretty well. But I never get to interview stage because my applications are so poorly written. And also, for me to write, it's exhausting, you know, like it uses a lot of mental energy. But what I love doing is turning on my little speech software. In this case, I use Dragon, and it writes it all out for me. Now, before we start to think, this sounds amazing, I'll be very honest with you. It's come a long, long way from when it was originally created. So if you've tried it before, years ago, it's worth giving it another go, but nothing's perfect. Now, I use Dragon on a Mac, and they have unfortunately discontinued it on Mac. So I'm running an old version, which means I'm unable to update my computer to the latest software. So unfortunately, I am working on borrowed time in terms of how useful this can be. On PC, however, it's still working great. They're updating it consistently.
Yeah, on that. So
Yeah.
the PC version is very good these days in terms of accuracy. So for any of you that had an older version, anything beyond 3 years ago that found it a bit clunky or couldn't understand you, I would say that's mostly been resolved and there's a consensus there. Also, for those of you on Mac or for those of you constantly on the go, there's Dragon Anywhere, which is a mobile phone variant. Not as comprehensive, of course, but nonetheless, for those that can't express themselves in type, if speech is still the best method for you, then there is that mobile option. Additionally, for a separate purpose, there is a software called Otter that can be tried for free via Otter IE, and that will transcribe a face-to-face meeting, i.e. people say their things and every time someone starts and stops speaking, it will write it for you and block out that text. So again, nowhere near as accurate or customizable as Dragon, but nonetheless, for those that have Dragon but can't use it, still struggle with meetings, there's that additional option as well.
Cool. Thanks, Tim. Oh, so Matt says he's been using it on Windows and it's useful. And Stephanie says, is it better than what's already installed on Mac? So yeah, Stephanie, you're right. Mac does have one already pre-installed, but it's far better for like one-off sentences. It's not great if you were to just talk and talk and talk. I find for me, it's not very good at punctuation and gaps, where Dragon, for instance, I could be like, capital letter, or exclamation mark, and it would write. You can also control your screens with it. I must say though, there are some really good free solutions out there. So if you're on a budget, because Dragon isn't cheap, I love using Google's G keyboard. It works on Android and Apple, and honestly, it's a lifesaver. So all it does is it's changed your like default keyboard, and I push a little microphone, and I talk into it all the time. It allows me to get through my emails really quick because I can just go like swipe, swipe, swipe and speak. Now, Tim did mention Dragon Anywhere, and that's a mobile app. Now, it is better than the the Google one. However, it's not as useful in my personal opinion. And the reason I say that is because you got the app right, you speak in the app and it writes down, but then you've got to copy and paste it into whatever application you're using. And that's a right pain. But with the Google keyboard, any kind of thing you're using, be it internet browsers, other apps, it works, it's integrated already. So sometimes you've got to weigh up practicalities over like how good a software is. Cool. And yeah, guys, any questions along the way, feel free to put them in the comments and I'll do my best. And the great thing is with Dragon, it's pretty versatile, so it works really well with Microsoft Word. I don't know about the PC version, but it doesn't work with everything. So as a team, we use Skype to communicate, and for some annoying reason, it doesn't work in Skype or it doesn't work in WhatsApp. So bear in mind, it's pretty universal, but not completely. All right, next fun one, while we're going through these, is spelling software. Oh, actually, do we have any other questions? I've used it. No, so I'm going to show you global now. I have used it for WhatsApp. All right, Matt. Well, maybe it just doesn't work on my one, but I am using, as I said, unfortunately, an outdated version. Now, spelling software. The one I'm going to talk about now is far more niche, okay? It's one that a lot of people do not know about, but actually is really good. Now, when you think spelling software, why would I need spelling software? Because spell check on Microsoft is already there. And it's true, it is, and it's completely free. But the reason why it's not great is if you're quite heavily dyslexic like me, nothing will slow you down more than spending all your day right-clicking on the red line, finding the misspelt word and doing it. I'm doing that all day. Like, I always say, when you're younger, you're learning to spell, absolutely, it's great to correct your spelling. But as an adult, my brain is very stubborn, you know, it's stuck in its ways. It's not going to learn how to spell individuals at this age, no matter how many times I try. It's kind of like locked onto the spelling that's in my brain now. So I just want to be able to get on with my life. I don't want to be continuously reminded that I'm spelling it wrong. This is why I love global. So as far as I'm aware, and correct me if I'm wrong, Tim, it's only available on PC.
That is incorrect.
Oh, is it?
It's although the PC version I would say is more advanced, it is available on both PC and Mac.
Okay, thanks, Tim. I've not used it on Mac, but I think Tim's right. It works really well on PC. So while you're typing, right, say if you spell a word wrong, rather than getting the red line, it automatically fixes it. So like straight away. So you can be typing and it will correct it as you go along. And it gets smarter the more you use it. So say if there's a word you continuously spell wrong, it will start to understand that word. And you can also add words. So sometimes I spell words, for example, maybe you spell said as like S-E-D. And if that word is already a real word, most softwares will not know. But this, you can kind of tell it. And in the screen here, you can kind of see, it tells you how often you spell a word wrong, which is really useful because if you do want to then improve yourself, it's great. Like for me, the words I spell wrong the most is definitely like education, individuals, college. I'm always spelling them wrong. So it's getting really quick. By the way, one of the most misspelt words is actually college or application. So a few people aren't getting the jobs, eh? Now we got.
Well, in fairness, with the example of college, for instance, you've also got colleague, you've also got collage.
Yeah.
So they don't make it easy. And also I find spellings for any word that mean success are ironic in terms of the spelling. For instance, success is 2 sets of doubles. Achievement, I have no idea how they came up with that spelling. And so, so other than great, anything that means have done well is ridiculously spelled.
True. And Tim, this is a question which I think will be best for you from Florence is, will it work with any application, i.e. a custom application?
Typically, yes. So for one thing, if there's an application you don't want it to run in, excuse me, you can tell it that. So if you don't want it to mess up your lovely databases, for instance. Conversely, to the question, in most cases, if you go ahead and do what you mentioned, Nat, which is find an incorrect word and tell it it's incorrect, that will kick global functionality in, and it will then start doing it even though it wasn't doing it before. That's definitely the case on PC. Once again, pinch of salt with Mac. But the other thing there is bear in mind that in a custom system, although it will run, you won't necessarily, if the custom system doesn't have the red lines that Word does, you're not going to get those. So even if it's doing its job, you're not going to be able to see it do its job. But yes, it will typically run in a custom system.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't really have too many bad things to say about this software, but with all of them apart from the price. And I won't go into prices today because it's different all over the world, but we will go on later on about how you can pay for these because there are grants available in different countries. And again, if you've got a word, you know, like the company like School Kit, and they spell school like SKOOL, it would obviously correct that, but you can tell it that that is a correct word. Now, this is a really good example. So if you were to do accommodate, bizarre, or calendar, and you spelt them wrong in Microsoft Word, the red line would appear. But elsewhere, if I remember correctly, because I remember Tim, you showed me this, is that it wouldn't recognize that you spelt it wrong, whereas global autocorrect would recognize it.
Absolutely. And back to that ironic concept about words that mean doing well. It offers you else would and else wise, 2 words not even I can define clearly. And yet somehow, just because you've used the wrong tense for where, it can't pick it up when any eyeball can clearly see what you were going for.
Brilliant, yeah. So it does have like a few nuances. And next one, and guys, appreciate that we're moving quite fast on this, but there's quite a cool few gadgets to get through. We have reading software. Now this, you know, pretty self-explanatory. If you've got written on a page, it will read it to you. Now, why would you have this? Because the vast majority of us can read. The amount of people who are completely illiterate is a very small number, well, in developed countries at least, but even so, people can normally get by, particularly if they were able to use a computer. Maybe a bit presumptuous, but on the whole. I use speech software all the time, well, reading software, and it's more to do with comprehension and processing, which I know a few you mentioned at the beginning. If you hear something back into you, depending how your brain learns, you might take in the information so much better. So I'm a very auditory learner, and by just reading text on the page, yes, I'm technically reading it, but I'm not like absorbing it. So that's the main reason I use this. And Claro is one of the most common ones, which is often kind of recommended. I have had some issues with it on a Mac, because I'm a Mac user, Tim's a PC user. I find it can be a bit buggy and crashes, for me at least. But on PCs, it is good. Now, I'll be totally honest with you, on Mac, I use what's already built in, and I love it. I use it for everything. You can set up your own keyboard shortcuts. So I can, Oh dear. So I will just highlight it and it will read everything out for me. And you probably will ask how the voice is. It is a little bit robotic. It'll be like, the boy who lived, Mr. and Mrs. Dursley of number 4. Though they have gotten a lot better. My favourite voice, and this is a real top tip, is Fiona from Scotland. She's like, the boy who lived, Mr. and Mrs. Dursley of number 4. Actually, no, is that Irish? I'm not even going to try to copy it, but there's so many different accents out there, like Indian British, American British, like they've got some really niche ones, and I'm sure you'll find one that works for you. Another thing which I think makes it really great is a lot of people who are dyslexic are often kind of think, oh, I'm so slow at reading. Well, on this, you can make it read faster. And I've actually programmed my brain now to understand really, really fast speech. So when my toddlers are talking really fast, I'm able to understand really fast. So I'm able to get through a massive chunk of text like twice as fast as most people would. Okay, so just a few comments so far. I find reading a book hard work and produce like Audible any good. I find podcasts good to consume content. Michael, so a top tip which I do, right, because I love reading, but just like you, I find it really bloody tough. I like to get the audiobook and the written book, okay? And what I do is I'll read the actual book page to page because it looks better on my eyes find it easier to read than digital. And I have the audiobook playing as well. And every time I try to read like a tiny bit faster, but every time my brain kind of glitches out, it kicks me up the bum and keeps me on track. And that way it allows me to get through things a lot easier. And for me, I feel like I'm doing fine. If anyone ever tells you, though, listening to an audiobook is cheating, they're wrong. It's a different way of getting to the same goal. All right, which software do you use on Mac? Well, it's pre-built. So if you go into the settings in Accessibility, you can set up your keyboard shortcut. Honestly, it's like such a hidden feature, but it's a lifesaver for me. And I do the same now. My reading has improved. I started to get both books and audiobooks. Nice. It's glad I'm not the only one. I thought I was innovative on that. So yeah, there's so many different types. And if you guys are struggling or think I just don't have any budget whatsoever, there are lots of websites that do it for free. Obviously, the main thing between free and paid is quality of the voices. But a top tip is using Google Translate, even if you're doing English, because all you have to do is paste your words into Google Translate, have the output language as English, and make it read, and pretty good. So yeah, top tip.
On that point, Nat, one of the, so yeah, there is a budget option, but one of the reasons for a more premium service is the fact that you don't have to copy paste in order to receive the readout. And once again, it's cross-platform, i.e. I could go into my emails and just highlight text and have that read, or I could go into a PDF file and highlight that and have that read, or I could go into a word processor and highlight that and have that read. So convenience is the other big thing regarding the difference between a premium service.
Nah, yeah, Tim's completely right on that. Actually, it is worth, however, trying a few different products out, because some are better than others and some are more, it depends on you. So there are some, right, that as soon as you select the word, it'll start reading it, and that's really annoying because I don't actually want everything read out. I only want like odd sentences. So I prefer setting up loads of keyboard shortcuts, which I find really easy. Okay, next one is mind mapping software. Now, mind mapping software might seem a bit like juvenile to some, but I actually think it's a genius way, because our brains are made to learn in kind of like pictures and diagrams, and having an idea and converting it onto paper can be quite tricky. So mind mapping is just another way of getting your ideas onto paper. Now, the one we're showing here today is MindView, and I think I would say it's the industry standard. Actually, there are a few others, but it is really good. And what I love about this is if you're a bit of a technophobe and struggle with computer softwares, they've actually designed this to look almost identical to Microsoft Office. So it feels like it's just another extension to like PowerPoint or Word. And one of the things which I used to always find really frustrating as a dyslexic is that, yeah, I don't mind using this other software, but then if I've got to create it in this soft platform and then transfer it to another system so other people can like use it, it takes so much of my time up and I end up being in a time deficit. Where MindView, however, and again, we're not paid to say this, it really is good because you can export it in so many formats. So say I create this beautiful mind map, I can convert it into Word and it will kind of format it as a text document. I can convert it into PowerPoint and it will do kind of each section as a PowerPoint slide. You can save as and convert in so many different formats. It's also incredibly visual. Now, again, I'll probably need Tim's clarification on this, but I believe that it's far better on PC. You're probably going to hear this a lot. I've got it on Mac, I use it on Mac, but there's less functions. It's so much better on PC.
While that's true, and like you said, for most things, it is fully functional on Mac in terms of its stability. So if you're using it, as a lot of people do, purely for the visual aspect, it is no less effective than the PC version. However, it's the background tools for scheduling and project management and so on, where you might find that there's less available on the Mac version.
Yeah, it's very high end. Like saying, I'm a Mac user and I use it on my Mac all the time, and I have never thought, "Oh, I wish there was some other feature that isn't available." There is an online version, and I think that is definitely the way of the future, because at the moment, it is a bit annoying that once I've created it on my computer, if I go onto another computer, the document isn't there. But I believe the online version is getting better, but at the moment it is more limited. Now, so, oh,
It's
sorry,
not
Tim.
completely the same thing, but for organizational note taking, there is something Mac specific called Tinderbox. I don't know if anyone's familiar with that already, but I do believe there is a free version or free trial of that Mac users might be able to look into as well.
Yeah. Now, someone either mentioned Mind Node, Node, a Mind Node. I've not used that myself, but there are lots of other softwares out there. A really good free alternative, and I've used this for a long time, is Coggle. So that's Coggle, Coggle. It's made by Google and it's completely free. It is by far really basic, but if you're just looking for a good basic software that's really colorful and useful, I used that for many years before I kind of moved on to MindView. But once you get used to MindView, it is quite difficult to go back just because it's so customizable. You can really do so much on it. Now, Stephanie said, when you talk about PCs, do you like, is it like Office 365 and is that Google? Tim, do you know the difference? Because I know like Office 365 is the online version, which I don't.
Yeah. No, so in terms of functionality, there is no difference. Neither with the apps, i.e. if you're using the desktop version of MS Word, it's exactly the same if you're getting it through 365, you just don't have permanent access to it. And in terms of the cross-compatibility of assistive technology with it, it's the same again. So it's not so much it's more to do with the operating system than your Office package. Also on a reference higher up in the chat, there was a point made about the fact that training is often necessary for assistive technology. And yes, any assistive technology that we provide as a business also gets the recommendation of training alongside that. The reason being is because assistive technology is often not straight out of the box functional in terms of its usability or its intuitiveness.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, MindView is one of the better ones, but training really is important. There's so many functions, like this software really is quite comprehensive, but you end up using like one feature on it because you've forgotten how to use everything. So if you go through UK funding, definitely make sure you get the training. If you're international, obviously YouTube has everything under the sun, from every type of cat video imaginable to every training you could possibly want. Oh yeah, and now for scanning pen. So this is a really popular one for like in schools, but a lot of people don't normally consider it for in the workplace, and actually it can have a lot of benefits. So in essence, right, all it does is just like Claro, which reads text on the screen, this reads text, but like physical text. So you have a book in front of you, an old-fashioned paper one, you get your pen, you glide over it, and it will read it back to you. Like, again, a bit robotic, but it can be a lifesaver in situations where there just isn't a digital copy available. And apparently, well, actually, it's in the post at the moment. The people who make scanning pens are sending us a new revision, which is made for in the workplace, and it's tailored to have like different functionalities, and it's a lot slimmer and kind of like, you know, less kind of big and orange. But there is a white one as well. It has an inbuilt dictionary, can read things out to you. There's even ones that can translate things like French and German. I think me and Tim once got it stuck on Spanish and I did not know how to get off of it. But maybe that was just us. I think what I like about this pen is that you can just take it anywhere. It's very small, and you might, it's not very good if you want to read an entire book, to be honest. It's good though if there's like the odd word here and there and you get stuck on. An example, a professional example is maybe you're a lawyer or a pharmacist or a doctor, and due to your dyslexia, there's certain words that you just can't really read, or you're not 100% certain. And you're probably not want to put your hand up and ask someone for help because it gets a bit embarrassing, and you know, you don't want to lower your credibility. This would be great. You whip this out, you plug in your headphones, put it on, and it will tell you the word, and it can even give you a dictionary definition. That's what I like about it. Another thing that is I find a bit challenging is that if you use paper which is like really shiny, sometimes it messes up. Once I can't remember what it's trying to read, but it said like, you have a gun, and it was nothing related to that, and I was like, it was like an online presentation. Awfully embarrassing. But if you got small text, which is kind of standard, it works great. If you're doing like kind of crazy text, which is like different sizes, it might struggle with. Tim, is there anything else you'd want to add to scanning pen?
Yeah, so one thing, in my and Nat's defense, we were trying to change the language to Spanish, the verbal language. We weren't expecting the menu to change to Spanish, so that's why we got caught out. Also, in terms of features, the white version model, which is usually what we provide, is also has the ability to permanently collect digital text. Now, this is a different mode from the readout, but if you're doing studies, for instance, similar to what Nat said, if you come across a word that is really hard to remember or you don't recognize outright, you can actually collect that and have it to review later. Or this would work also for addresses, for references. So basically you could collect a whole batch of little snippets of information permanently, which you can then transfer to an additional device if required. Also, if you're plugged into a PC, if you're not out and about, if you're at your computer and you have the cable in, it will, as you scan, it will actually transcribe that directly onto the computer. So you won't need to do it into the device and then transfer it later. It will do it direct. And lastly, as Nat mentioned, he wouldn't do it for a full book, but it doesn't have an upper limit on how much you can do at any one time. And the newer versions are a lot better at doing that. So what I mean to say is, it's not just single line use. You can do it one paragraph at a time, or the whole thing if you wanted. But I think to Nat's point, one paragraph at a time is more convenient, because it gives us the time to digest and doesn't confuse the machine.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks, Tim. With most of these things, they actually do quite a lot, but what it really comes, you end up only using like one feature. So the reading back to you is definitely the thing you'd use this for. But again, if you don't have a scanner involved, you could scan words of a document, which the digital version does not exist, and then you can put the text on your computer, which is pretty cool. But I've not really used it. Some things are cool, but maybe not that practical. But it is a great device. All right, next one. Sorry, guys, we're on the home run. We've got a few more left, but you're doing great. Is scanning. Actually, for a quick break, look what I found. I'm at my family home. I found this really creepy knitting nanny. And yeah. All right, there's a break. Back to work. So the next one is scanning pen. No, sorry, smart pen. Now, the one we're going to be talking about today is LiveScribe, but there are some others on the market, such as Moleskin. And I haven't got my hands on one yet, but when I had a quick test run, that I really liked. I think that's going to be more of the future, and they've got a more updated one of these. I've got a bit of a love-hate relationship with these books, and I'll tell you why. So what happens is, you've got a physical book, you know, actual paper, and you've got a pen that has actual ink, and as you write on it, it will automatically send it to your phone, and you can see it in real time, write it out. Now, why would you want that? Well, if you're someone like me who's always losing stuff, nothing worse than getting back to the office after a really successful meeting. You've got all your notes and you're about to put a proposal together. You can't. You've lost everything. You've failed at life. But no, you haven't, because you go on your phone and you've got all your notes already there and you can continue as you were. That's one reason. Another thing is, maybe you're at a meeting and you're trying to write notes, right? Because it looks better to write notes than it does to type on your computer. It looks like you're more engaged. And if that's the case, this is great. But for me, and I'm probably doing this for you guys right now, talking way too fast, it's really difficult to write the notes. So what you can do here is, while writing, you can tap like a button on the book, and it will start recording. So it's also a dictaphone. But unlike normal dictaphones, which are often subscribed to people who are dyslexic, this will link it to the words in your book, so you'll never lose things. And that's my biggest criticism of using a dictaphone, is that I find it really difficult to find all my files again. And this will kind of like anchor it to the text as well. So whenever I go to a meeting, I'll take it and I'll start recording and writing. So if I want more detail from my bullet point, or, you know, sometimes you'll just like write sandwich and you're like, why did I write sandwich? You click on it and then it'll give you the whole conversation that you were meant to order 12 at Waitrose for like someone's party. So it's useful for that. Another thing it does, and this is with varying success, but sometimes it works really well, is it converts what you've written into digital text. So say I wrote like on a book, then on my phone, I'd have it digital, and then I can copy that text and then put it into like Word or an email. And that, in theory, should stop you having to rewrite things multiple times, which, let's face it, anything that can save you time as a dyslexic is going to be great. Now, the reason why I got a love-hate relationship is that this sounds too good to be true. And quite honestly, it kind of is. It's all the features which sounds awesome, I think sound awesome, and they vary in terms of how good. But the reason why I do use this book, and I use it all the time, is for the archiving. So no matter what, I've always got a backup. And how often do I lose my things since having it? Not really often, but just having that peace of mind I have found really helpful. Okay, so Florence said, did you say that this one is actually called Smart Pen, or is this a type of Smart Pen? So this one is a type of Smart Pen. The brand is called LiveScribe, but bear in mind, it's an American company. So customer service isn't great, but the other one is Moleskine, and they're quite common around in like stores. You can ask to have a test play in a lot of the stores around the UK. Tim, any other lovely tips on smart pens?
Yeah, absolutely. Apparently, there's room in the English market because, as you pointed out, LiveScribe American, Moleskine German. So for one thing, and that you might not be aware of this, that the Moleskine transcription is better. It's in the sense that it will give it to you all in one block. You'd still need to edit it afterwards, but unlike LiveScribe that gives it to you in strips, I find it useful to have it all in one block. In addition to that, this is the image that you're seeing is the LiveScribe Mac 3. That's actually an older model now. The current one is the Eiger, if anyone wanted to look it up. It's more cost effective, but still does everything it says on the tin. Also, it's worth mentioning that they are developing desktop software. So currently this technology is specifically for the mobile phone, but they are working on getting it onto your computers as well. Lastly, as the caveats, something that maybe wasn't caught from Nat's description earlier is you will require digital pads in order for the functionality to work.
Yeah, really good point, Tim. So the books aren't overly expensive, but it is important to know that these ones need special paper. You can actually print the paper. You can download a PDF and print it because it basically has like tiny dots all over the page that you can barely see, and the pen like maps it. There's other ones on the market which will just like scan the page and interpret. There's lots of different types. One of the things I will give it credit for, though, is for handwriting. So if you've got really bad handwriting, it's surprisingly good at understanding your handwriting. But before you kind of, again, run to the shops and buy one, I would highly recommend you find someone who has one or go to the shop and practice, because some handwriting it likes and other handwriting it does not like. My handwriting is terrible, but it can understand mine. Other people's, which are, a little bit more swirly, it struggles with. So try it out first. All right, I think this is the last main one, is we've got colored overlays. Now this one, super cheap, but it works. And a lot of people do not understand why it works. Now, if anyone says, have you tried a yellow colored overlay? No, because yellow is the most common one, right? That most people find useful, but it's not universal. And the way it works is that when you've got white paper and black text, that is the highest possible contrast difference you could get. And it can put a lot of visual strain on the old eyes. And that over time can like make words blur and move and demonstrate a lot of the traits of dyslexia. So if you're able to like soften that contrast, it can make reading more easier on the eyes, more enjoyable. But because like how like color absorbs into the eyes and our eyes are all different, different kind of filters would be better for different people. I think for me, I prefer like light blue. Other people prefer purple. So again, before you go, oh, Matt says you prefer darker colors. Sometimes what I do is I get like multiple ones and put them on top to make it darker. It really is worth practicing with multiple colors to find which one works for you. We actually do give like assessments at EI where we'll kind of like play with all the different colors and work out the best one for you. You can even get glasses that kind of have them tinted over. You can get computer software which changes the screen. So Tim, what do we use? Is it Claro mainly for that software?
Claro, yes. So Claro View is an option, and it actually comes as part of Claro Read if you get the full package. However, Crossbow, who do the physical overlays, also have a software called Tintin Track if all you're after is the ability to change that screen contrast.
Yes, that was the one I was thinking of, Tintin Track. Like, I like that one. Very, very basic software, but does the job. So you can either have it embedded on the screen, you can have it as a physical thing over the screen, or you can use like a little kind of like slit, which Stephanie just mentioned. Now, Florence has said, I don't know if anyone else would find this helpful, but my workplace has started using recycled paper, which is quite dark. I think it saves them money, but is it actually great? Yeah, that is a great one. And again, it's just because the paper isn't completely white, it makes it easier. This is why you might want to print on like slightly yellowy paper. Or I don't know if you guys can see, but this presentation, the background isn't actually white. It's kind of like very light gray, so it's easier to see. And such a slight difference can actually make it more visually appealing. Now, the next section is like, how do you guys get this software, okay, and all this equipment? Now, I really apologize for those who aren't in the UK, but each government is different. So I'm going to give an overview of the UK, but bear in mind that each individual countries might have their own scheme. So contact us directly, well, in the like direct message later, and we'll let you know if we're aware of different countries' needs. So if you are under the Equality Act in the UK 2010, you are eligible because officially you have a disability as dyslexia. Even if you don't consider it a disability, it still counts as one, which is a good thing. But you've got to be over 16. You must be in paid work, and this includes self-employment. If you're making over like £6 a year, an apprenticeship, a work trial, an internship, and actually, Kim, maybe it's better for you because this is literally your bread and butter, your day job, to explain more about the eligibility. I don't want to go into too much detail though, just because it's not relevant for everyone, but
Certainly, not a problem. So if, assuming you're referring to the Access to Work scheme,
yeah.
Basically, if you are in employment, earn over 6,200 a year, and can prove it through official means, you then have the opportunity to request funding for equipment and services specifically to improve your work performance. That's for dyslexia in particular, that's often in the form of assistive technology and one-to-one coaching mentoring. So those who have already gone through the DSA, you might find it similar to what you received there, although what's regarded as general equipment such as laptops won't be considered very often. In terms of the requirement for evidence, a workplace needs assessment, which is something that I can perform, is referring to someone coming in, spending an hour at the job site, discussing what the role is, how you're affected by your neurodiversity, how the two impact each other, and then what out regarding the sort of things that we've been discussing today, what might be beneficial for you to have in order to combat that or develop more robust strategies against barriers. Nat, do you want to lead me back in?
Yeah, and Jennifer has mentioned, I think you can apply the weeks before beginning too. Absolutely. As soon as you have a job confirmed, it's completely worth applying, because not going to lie with you, the process takes a long time. You could be looking up for like 3 months from start of the application to getting your kit and the training. So sooner the better. Now, Matt mentioned, what if you're a student? Now, there is a separate one for students. It's different, like the people who like deal with it, but it's essentially the same thing. The top advice I'd give you guys though is whoever's doing your assessment, do your research before you meet them. And if you suggest software or equipment which you would find beneficial, they will listen to you. If you don't give them any direction, they'll just give you the software or the equipment that they know and they think's best. So you do have a say.
Very briefly, something you've just reminded me of, Nat, regarding when you were demonstrating the Smart Pen, there is also a tablet version for those who would prefer that, i.e. it's a digital screen, but you draw directly onto it in order to write. And again, it also has that basic transcription functionality as well. That just suits some people better. And also regarding what Nat just said about DSA and DLA, yes, your educational facility should be able to sort that out. And it's also quickly worth mentioning that for those already in work trying to go for this support, if you don't have a formal, if your diagnostic assessment was from when you were a child and you don't have any proof, that won't necessarily be an issue.
Yeah, and that's what Precious mentioned, like, should you go to your GP for an assessment first? If you want, but it's not necessary. As long as you resonate with being it, they typically don't ask for any proof. It's more about if you are struggling in the workplace due to something you perceive to be under the Equality Act. You know, it's a bit grey, to be fair, area, but you normally are okay. Now, and when you're an adult, to be fair, getting a diagnosis, there's pros and cons whether it's worthwhile or not. Most of the support is available to people regardless of it. So do your research first, because again, more expense. Now, if you're in a very big company, sometimes they will pay for all this stuff for yourself. So even if you're not in the UK, they'll still look after you, they'll still get the equipment. And under, each country has their own Equality Act, well, most do anyway. They normally have to make at least some reasonable adjustments. Now, Florence mentioned she applied in February, hasn't gotten anything yet. Can she go back and change the recommendations? This would all depend about where it is in the process, but it is good to know that even once you've received your training, you've got your equipment, say like 3 months later, you're still really struggling and the things they gave you didn't work, you are completely in your right to go back and to like have a like reassessment and to re-look at things again.
I'd also mention that regarding the award letter circumstance, if something went wrong in the post, that might mean a reapplication is required.
Yeah, they are a bit slow, so it's always worth giving them a quick call and following up on your application. But as Michael just mentioned, if you've already had one done, what then? Well, every time you're in a new job or a new position or your circumstances or location changes, you are able to like re-go through it again, and you're allowed to have re-amendments. So it's not like you've got once time you did it, you got a bum deal. You can keep re-going back.
The caveat there is if you're at a larger company, then there will be a contribution required.
Yeah, like, and Tim's right. So if you're at a really big company, if you've been there for over 6 weeks, there is a contribution to the organization, but it's still it's a decent contribution. But if you have only just started, an organization has less than 50 employees, it's typically, normally, mostly, always free. So it's definitely
Even for larger companies, within the first 6 weeks, it would normally be fully compensated.
Yeah, we never like to say completely, but very often. Okay, now this one is far more useful to people of all over the world. What help do we guys give you? So we can help you with recruitment, whether you're a company looking to get more neurodiverse talent in, or if you're an individual looking for a job. We work with people who we have trained very heavily, so they are nice and inclusive. So definitely get in touch if you're looking at the moment, send your CV to us. We do workshops and trainings. So we deliver to managers, directors, CEOs all over the world to let them understand not just what is dyslexia and neurodiversity, but how you can get the best out of your team and how you can use a different way of thinking to add revenue. So suddenly they're listening, you know. We do consultancy. Maybe you want an audit. You're thinking, wow, I'd love to make my website a bit more inclusive and really kind of get everyone through that door. We can help with that. And also employment support. So maybe you're looking for a new opportunity for completely free. You can come to us, have a one-to-one, and we'll try and work out where your skills best lie and maybe what fields or jobs will be most relevant to you. Now we've got no minutes left, but if you guys have any questions, I would just put them out there and I'll do my best to do a quick Q&A. But as always, feel free to contact us. We always love to hear from you. There will be no photos from the day, so ignore point 3, but all the others still apply.
Just in case we didn't cover it, self-employed people, you are also entitled to attempt the government funding, and that can be, in some cases, a smoother process. So feel free to get in touch if you require further information on that as well.
Cool. So guys, any questions or forever hold your peace? And okay, here we are. Do you have to use the supply given in the needs assessment? No. So it's up to you what supply you use. For instance, you might come to exceptional individuals because we only specialize in neurodiversity, like dyslexia, where another one might do everything under the sun. So you can like say, I want those people. If you're self-employed, you apply in the exact same way. You can either go via us and we will do all the paperwork for you, or you can go on the government website. And okay, cool. Oh, that looks most of it. So everyone, I'm gonna unmute you all because, you know, who doesn't love a bit of chaos at the end? And feel free to message us, contact us. We're always around. I'll be sending everyone the recorded video. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed it. Okay.
Thank you so much.
No, our pleasure. It's bye from me, Tim, and Knitting Nanny.